Hey, Mark, welcome and thanks for joining me on the Simplifying Entrepreneurship Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Pete. Happy to be here. Happy to be a part of this.
I thought this would be a great conversation today to kick things off, talking a little bit about cooperation and collaboration. And, we do that every morning in our Clubhouse room, and I thought we'd bring that to the conversation today.
I think that's a perfect idea. And it's a perfect way to share what really collaboration and collaborators, what that really means.
Yeah, so how are you using collaboration in your business, Mark, to advance your business and do things that you may not have done when you were thinking sort of in that solo mindset?
So I will tell you, I feel as if collaboration has always been one of my stronger suits, one of my stronger traits. I there's something about collaborating that I truly enjoy. It gets my juices flowing, so to speak. And I'm the line of work I'm in, where I'm a podcast producer. It is all about collaboration. You know this from the work that we've started together. Any of my clients can tell you, it's really the highlight of what I do every day is to be able to sit down with the host and collaborate on things from the entire overview of what their podcast is all about down to a specific episode, and collaborating on how to make that episode really on point with whatever the overall message is. So I'm always collaborating with people, and yeah, even when I started this business a couple of, I guess a little over a year ago now, it wasn't until I started collaborating with a coach, with my wife, who I brought in as a business partner, to really gain other perspective. I think sometimes we as humans just get caught up in our heads and think there's only one way to do something. And it's not until we share and discuss with somebody else when we can start seeing other perspectives that may work even better, or it may just validate whatever it is we thought was going to work well. It may just validate that. So yeah, collaboration, you could say, is my middle name.
I love that. I love that, Mark. I mean, one of the models that I created a couple of years ago is called the Wheel of Momentum. And on the Wheel of Momentum is cooperation. That's one of the spokes. But whether it's cooperation, collaboration, it's all sort of the same thing. And it all kind of starts with clarity, and then it moves into confidence. And then once we've got clarity in what you want, like you said, you brought in your wife, you figured out some stuff to make things happen, you're gaining that confidence, and then you're getting the competence in behind you, and you've garnered that over 15 years of podcasting, right? And then you're looking at that
Yeah, absolutely.
cooperation and collaboration now, and it's like, hey, things can really start happening. And when that happens, we're building our capacity, and you're seeing your business grow. And I look at you as my podcast partner. I'm like, wow, he's making some stuff happen, and that's really, really cool. The next thing after that becomes creativity. And when you have creativity, that wheel keeps moving, and that cog of collaboration and cooperation is such a big part of it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I love this wheel, and I actually wish I had come across it sooner. I wish we had crossed sooner, because it makes complete sense to see that progression grow from that gaining that clarity, and then bringing those people in. There's just such a powerful it's such a powerful piece of putting anything together, whether it's a business, a project, or anything you're really tackling. It's just such an effective way to work.
I think for me, when I look at podcasting and even getting this podcast going, I've been thinking about podcasting for a while here, Mark. And one of the big things is this idea, and one of the people I really look up to as a business coach, his name is Dan Sullivan, with Strategic Coach, and he and Ben Hardy wrote a book recently called Who Not How. And the idea is really, you don't necessarily need to know how to do everything, you just need the right who. And that's where this cooperation and
Uh-huh.
collaboration comes into, right? It's like, if we can find the who, then we can break through that ceiling of complexion or complexity, and then really blow out some of the stuff and make some stuff happen and move that needle and keep that momentum rolling.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There is Hold on, I'm going to pause for a second. Say what you said again, because I don't want to lose my thought.
Yep. So one of my one of the coaches that I look up to and have long followed and was a strategic coach member for a while. His name is Dan Sullivan, and Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, another best-selling author, co-wrote this book called Who Not How. And when you look at Who Not How, what happens is we don't necessarily, most people, entrepreneurs, just people in general, feel that they have to know how to do something. But really, if you spend the time, a lot of times, if you're spending the time that you would learning how to do something and just find the right who, the who will actually move you ahead at a more rapid pace. It'll expedite your future. It will just exponentially push you through those ceilings of complexity, those ceilings of complexity. And I think it's just a really interesting thing when we look at finding those right who's, which are our collaborators, so that we can move things ahead.
Yeah, when I that is such an important point, because I used to get frustrated when I didn't know something and felt that, oh, well, if I don't know it, then I'm not going to be good enough. And what I came to find, and I think it's another reason why I love collaboration so much, is that it's okay that I don't know it. And there's going to be somebody out there that I know, that I trust, that does know how to do it. And if they can't teach me, they very well might help me make that happen. It's just all a matter of reaching out, communicating, and learning from people around you, or finding the people out there that you can learn from. So yeah, I completely agree with that. I love that.
That overwhelming feeling is nasty. We've all had that at times. It can really be hard to overcome. It's that procrastination trap of not knowing what to do and how to break through. And then all you really need to do is find that collaborator. It's really an interesting thing. And when you do that, the wheels just start turning. And, why don't you tell me about a time in your past, Mark, where that kind of clicked for you and where you just elevated your game because you hooked in with the right cooperator or the right collaborator?
Yeah, so why don't we use, since we met on Clubhouse and we are actively using it, we can kind of use that as an example, as a recent time for me. And I'll start by saying, oftentimes I know when I'm ready to collaborate, when I'm feeling stuck, or when I've exhausted all my other options.
Cool.
For example, using Clubhouse, I knew that I wanted to host a regular room in Clubhouse that helps podcasters with their around podcasting. And I knew this was an important element to my business because, hey, if I'm going to consult and produce podcasts, I need to put myself out there. And if at the very least, it's helping me fine-tune my craft by helping others in this sort of way. So I knew some of my challenges around it pretty early on in the process around creating a room like that. For example, how was I going to host a room like that without being just like everybody else out there who teaches others around podcasting? What topics am I going to want to cover each time we meet? How am I going to draw a crowd? Those kinds of things were the things that I kind of felt a little stuck on after going through the process. My first steps in that process is that I like to research. So I studied the platform of Clubhouse. That in this case, I will study the way people host and participate in the rooms to learn kind of the dynamic of how all of that works. I study specifically rooms around podcasting to hear what things are being discussed, not. And then I compile a list of everything that I'm liking, the things that I don't like, and maybe a list of things that I'd like to see. But in this case, once I got to that point, that's where I hit a wall. My list wasn't enough really to inspire me to just create my own spin-off of how to start a podcast room or show. So this is where I needed collaboration. That's where collaboration came into play for me. I reached out to my own clients that are podcasting to learn more about the things that they'd like to learn still or wish that they had learned sooner. I reached out to friends and family and colleagues getting feedback on some of the ideas that I had thus far to see how that kind of fell, because I did want to do something that, yes, catered to podcasters, but I wanted to make sure that it would still be, for lack of a better word, entertaining for anybody else that might pop in and listen. So that's when, a couple weeks later, after all of those steps, I connected with the creator of the club that we are both part of, Ray Chaffardini. Ray had just announced that he had wanted to open up more rooms within his club on Clubhouse. And in that club is focusing around personal empowerment. So Ray and I had a great call. We were sharing thoughts and ideas of incorporating my desire to help podcasters into his club that's helping people create and live an empowered life. So we had this great call. We shared some ideas. And even after that, I'll occasionally text him. I had texted him actually earlier today. Said, what do you think about the name of this room? It used to be, sometimes I think people fall into the trap with collaboration of getting validation. And I used to fall into that trap a lot.
Yeah.
In this case, however, I don't think this was about validation. This was a true collaboration in the sense that here's something that I do, here's something that somebody else does, and we want to try to find a way to mesh them together. So yeah, let's share ideas and share thoughts and opinions on some of these things. So we came up with something, and I'm sure, oh, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go
ahead. So we came up with some stuff, and I'm sure at this point when people are listening, it's probably already out there, my new room. And what I've done is it'll be a room that's helping new and existing podcasters share, learn, develop the habits, the rituals, the mindsets, the things that we're doing as podcasters and people that empowers us both in front of and behind the microphone. I giggled there because I know Pete knows there's a lot of verbiage in there that's similar to Ray's room that he runs. And that makes sense. That's the collaboration. So that's a perfect example, a recent one of a collaboration of something that I'm really excited about and looking forward to getting started with.
I like that, Mark. One of the things I was thinking about when you were chatting there was this idea that collaboration really is for people with an abundant mindset. And I think that's a really interesting thing. When you were talking about that within that club and within a lot of people that I know that I've collaborated with or cooperated with over the years, it's really, if everybody has an abundant mindset, there's no sort of feelings of, oh, he's out to get me or any of this other stuff. It's really, the world is abundant and there's enough for everybody. And I want to help you just because I want to help you. And those kind of things are really interesting. When you meet up with people that actually make sense to you, you want to see them survive and thrive. You want to see them advance. And at the same time, when that happens, you tend to advance as well. And it's just one of these interesting things. But there's still a ton of people out there that have this sort of closed mindset that's like, oh, I'm not collaborating or cooperating with anybody because that might affect my side of things and blah blah blah. It's just an interesting sort of thought, I guess.
Yeah, I actually, it's a great point. I recently, last week, sat down on a Zoom call with technically somebody who's a direct competitor of mine.
For sure.
And I would think like 10 years ago, I probably never would have even entertained the idea of that call. Nowadays, I do see a shift in many people where you're right. There is an abundance for everybody. I'm a big believer in. Sorry, lost my train of thought again. 1 second.
Yeah. There's abundance for everybody is what you're.
I got it. Big believer in that old phrase, your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot to that, and I'm at the point now where I wouldn't have any problem promoting something side by side with a direct competitor that's offering the same thing, being in the same room as this person, because I know the people that I resonate with are going to be attracted to me, and the ones that resonate with the competitor are going to go there. And that's just the way it's supposed to go. I'm going to speak to certain people that I just make more sense than the next guy does. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
I agree. You know, when we don't have a whole ton of time left here on our episode, Mark, and I want to ask you a couple more questions here. You know, in your work, you know, obviously we're working together here with the podcast, but in your work, how do you help entrepreneurs and business leaders simplify entrepreneurship?
Well, one of the most obvious way probably is that I give them the ability to focus on their podcast, focus on the areas in which that they feel strongest. So for example, not that I don't think you could do this, however, your focus is to put on a great interview and make sure that you're putting out good content that other entrepreneurs can walk away with and put to good use. So the way that I step in is I take care of all of the other elements and pieces so that you can focus on what you should be doing, and I'm focusing on the rest so that everybody else can enjoy it. So that would be a prime example.
That's awesome. You know, I appreciate that. As we finish up the conversation, I always like to say, you know, what's one last thought that would encourage and challenge our listeners on this subject today, Mark?
I would challenge people to take that idea that you're working on, that you're struggling with, and go to one person that you didn't think you would ever go to and bounce the idea around them. Because you could easily go to your wife, your husband, a friend, a colleague, find somebody that, and it still may be a friend or a family member or a colleague, but go to one that you don't normally do this with, because you're going to get a great new perspective. It may not be the answer, but just to get a perspective, a different perspective than your usual circles, is going to take you a long way.
I love that. That's great. Thanks so much. So I'll ask you to share with the audience on how to get a hold of you if they want to reach out. I'm going to redo that. Thanks for spending some time with us today, Mark. I'll just ask you to share with the audience on how to get a hold of you if they want to reach out and have a chat with you.
Yeah, I would love that. You can find me at ironicmedia.com, and that's IRONICK. It's a play off of my last name, ironicmedia.com. And on social media, you can find me anywhere, just at Ironic Media. And thank you again for this. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow morning, Mark.